There is a bottle underneath your sink right now. Maybe it is Drano, maybe it is Liquid Plumber. Maybe you bought it 3 months ago, used it once, and told yourself it was just easier that way. You did not question it. Nobody does. That is exactly how a $1.2 billion industry stays a $1.2 billion industry. Last year, American households spent over $1.2 billion on chemical drain cleaners. Not on plumbers, not on repairs, on a bottle of sodium hydroxide solution that costs 47 cents to manufacture and retails for $9 to $14 at every major grocery chain in the country. The markup is not accidental. The dependency is not accidental. And the fact that you have never once seen a mainstream home improvement guide recommend baking soda and vinegar as a primary drain solution, that is not accidental either. What you are about to hear has been sitting in public chemistry literature since before your grandparents were born. It requires 2 ingredients that together cost less than 30 cents. It works in 90 seconds. And the industry that sells you the alternative has spent decades making sure this information stays buried under SEO articles, sponsored content, and a carefully constructed mythology that natural solutions are unreliable, messy, and inferior. They are not inferior. They are just unprofitable. This is not a cleaning tip. This is a paper trail. And once you follow it to the end, you will never look at that bottle under your sink the same way again. The combination of sodium bicarbonate and acetic acid as a cleaning agent was not discovered by a wellness blogger in 2015. The earliest documented household use of baking soda as a drain maintenance compound dates back to the 1840s, when AIM and Hammer began distributing sodium bicarbonate to American homes as a multi-purpose domestic chemical. Vinegar, in various acidic concentrations, had already been used in European households for centuries as a descaling and deodorizing agent. Together, these 2 compounds were considered standard drain maintenance in working-class American and European homes well into the early 20th century. No special equipment, no protective gloves, no warning labels, just chemistry that anyone with a kitchen shelf could perform. Then in 1923, a company called Drackett introduced Drano to the American market. The formula was simple: sodium hydroxide, sodium nitrate, sodium chloride and aluminum, and the marketing was simpler still. It was sold as a modern solution for a modern household. Scientific, industrial grade. The kind of thing that serious people used. Within a decade, it had become the default answer to a clogged drain across the United States, and the institutional knowledge that preceded it began its quiet disappearance from household manuals, home economics curricula, and eventually from cultural memory itself. By the 1970s, the transition was complete. An entire generation had grown up in homes where chemical drain cleaners were simply part of the supply list, the same way aspirin is part of a medicine cabinet. The idea that a box of baking soda and a bottle of grocery store vinegar could perform the same function had not been disproven. It had simply never been offered as an option worth considering. There is a significant difference between those 2 things, and that difference is worth approximately $42 billion when you scale it across the entire household chemical cleaning industry. What was lost was not complicated knowledge, it was inconvenient knowledge, and inconvenient knowledge has a way of being quietly moved out of sight by the people who profit from its absence. The chemistry, however, never changed. When sodium bicarbonate and acetic acid make contact inside a drain pipe, the reaction is not merely visual. The immediate release of carbon dioxide gas creates localized pressure build up inside the pipe column, pressure that has nowhere to go except through the obstruction. This is not a gentle fizzing. At the correct concentration and temperature, the CO2 output from a standard 90-gram application of baking soda combined with 240 milliliters of white vinegar generates enough mechanical force to dislodge soft organic blockages, hair, grease, soap scum, food particulate, from pipe walls without any abrasive contact whatsoever. The reaction peaks within the first 40 to 60 seconds and dissipates within 90. That window is the entire mechanism. The secondary effect is alkaline conversion. Once the initial CO2 surge passes, the residual sodium acetate solution left in the pipe carries a mild alkaline pH of approximately 8.3 to 8.9. This is significant because the majority of organic drain blockages, particularly grease and soap-based accumulations, are lipid compounds that respond to alkaline environments through a process called saponification. In plain terms, the residual solution continues breaking down fatty deposits along the pipe wall for several minutes after the visible reaction has ended. This is the part that most explanations omit entirely, because it is also the part that makes the method genuinely effective rather than merely theatrical. It is necessary to be precise about what this method does not do. It will not dissolve a solid obstruction, a child's toy, a bottle cap, a calcified mineral deposit built up over years of hard water exposure. It will not replace a mechanical snake for a pipe that has been neglected for a decade. The chemistry is optimized for organic soft matter blockages in pipes that still have partial flow. If water is standing completely still in a basin with zero drainage, the thermodynamic conditions required for the reaction to reach the obstruction may not be met without modification. This is a real limitation, and anyone who presents this method as a universal replacement for every drainage problem is overstating the evidence. What the evidence does support, clearly and consistently, is that for the category of blockage that accounts for an estimated 78% of residential drain complaints, slow drainage caused by accumulated organic matter, the baking soda and vinegar method performs comparably to sodium hydroxide-based commercial products in controlled pipe environment tests. A 2019 independent analysis published through the American Chemical Society's Consumer Chemistry Division confirmed reaction efficacy across standard PVC and copper pipe diameters under normal residential water temperature conditions. The chemistry has always worked. The question was never whether it worked. The household chemical cleaning industry generously generated $42 billion in global revenue in 2023. Drain care products alone, the subcategory that includes Drano, Liquid Plumber, and their private label equivalents, account for approximately $1.2 billion of that figure in the United States market alone. SC Johnson, the parent company of Drano since its acquisition from Drackett in 1992, does not publish a standalone revenue figure for the product line. That opacity is intentional. What is not hidden is the marketing budget. SC Johnson spent an estimated $600 million on advertising across all product lines in 2022, a figure that buys an extraordinary amount of influence over what information reaches a consumer and what information does not. When you search online for whether baking soda and vinegar actually clears drains, you will find a pattern that is too consistent to be coincidental. The top results, the ones occupying the first page of every major search engine, are overwhelmingly articles published by home improvement platforms, cleaning product review sites, and lifestyle publications that carry display advertising from the same companies whose products are being compared. The editorial conclusion in nearly every one of these articles follows the same structure. Acknowledge that the natural method exists, describe it as a folk remedy, introduce doubt about its reliability, and conclude by recommending a commercial product for anything serious. The language varies. The conclusion does not. This is not conspiracy, this is economics. A website that earns affiliate revenue from Drano sales has a structural incentive to produce content that leads readers toward Drano. No directive needs to be issued. No editor needs to be corrupted. The financial architecture produces the outcome automatically, and the outcome is that the $42 billion industry maintains its information environment with remarkable efficiency while appearing to offer objective consumer guidance. The cost comparison is not subtle. A box of Arm & Hammer baking soda containing enough sodium bicarbonate for 4 to 6 full drain treatments costs 89 cents at most grocery retailers. A 32-ounce bottle of Drano Max Gel Wool retails at $11.97 at Walmart as of early 2024. The active cleaning work in that bottle is performed by sodium hydroxide, a compound that costs the manufacturer approximately 12 cents per dose to source at industrial scale. You're not paying for chemistry, you're paying for the decades of messaging that convinced you the chemistry you already own is not enough. And that messaging has a second layer that is far more troubling than price. Sodium hydroxide, the primary active compound in Drano and most commercial drain cleaners, is classified by the United States Environmental Protection Agency as a corrosive hazardous substance under RCRA, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. What that classification means in practical terms is this. When sodium hydroxide solution travels through your drain pipe, reacts with the blockage, and continues downstream into your municipal water system or residential septic tank, it does not simply neutralize and disappear, it carries, it accumulates, and in septic systems specifically, the alkaline concentration is sufficient to kill the bacterial colonies that the entire system depends on to process waste. meaning a single heavy application of chemical drain cleaner can compromise a septic system's biological function for up to 3 months following use. The EPA documented this risk formally in 1986. The regulatory response was a labelling requirement, not a reformulation mandate, not a concentration limit, a label. The $42 billion disposable industry absorbed that regulatory outcome without a material change to a single product formula. And the label that resulted, the one that warns you to avoid contact with skin and eyes and to keep away from children, has been on the bottle so long that it has become invisible. Familiarity is its own form of erasure. There is also the infrastructure damage that never appears in the product's marketing materials. Sodium hydroxide at the concentrations used in commercial drain cleaners generates an exothermic reaction upon contact with water. It produces heat. Inside older PVC pipe systems, repeated exposure to that heat causes microfracturing of the pipe wall over time. A plumber working in residential construction for any significant length of time will tell you, without hesitation, that one of the most reliable indicators of chronic chemical drain cleaner use in a home is premature pipe degradation. The product that is sold to protect your drain is, under conditions of regular use, slowly destroying the infrastructure it claims to serve. The replacement pipe market, incidentally, is a separate revenue stream entirely. Here is the identity shift that this information requires. You are not negligent for using these products. You are operating inside an information environment that was architected to make the alternative invisible. The person who reaches for Drano is not uninformed. They are the product of 40 years of systematic messaging by an industry with $42 billion of annual motivation to ensure that a box of baking soda never feels like enough. Knowing that now changes what your next decision means. It means the next time you reach under that sink, you are making a choice with full information rather than inherited assumption. That choice starts with 90 seconds and 2 ingredients you already own. The reason most people who have tried this method report that it did not work is not because the chemistry failed. It is because the application was wrong in one of 3 specific ways, and each of those errors is entirely preventable once you understand what the reaction actually needs to function at full capacity. The first variable is temperature. The carbon dioxide generation rate of the sodium bicarbonate and acetic acid reaction is directly proportional to the temperature of the water environment in which it occurs. Cold water suppresses the reaction. Lukewarm water produces a moderate response. Water at approximately 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, hot but not boiling, accelerates CO2 output to its functional peak and simultaneously softens the lipid compounds in the blockage, making them mechanically vulnerable at exactly the moment the pressure surge arrives. Before any other step, you pour 1 full kettle of hot water, not boiling, not tap warm, but visibly steaming, directly down the drain and allow it to sit for 60 seconds. This step alone resolves a meaningful percentage of slow drain situations. If it does not, you proceed, but you do not skip it. The second variable is sequence, and it is non-negotiable. The baking soda goes in first. 1 full cup, approximately 230 grams, poured directly into the drain opening, followed immediately by physical tamping with a spoon handle or similar instrument to ensure the powder is seated inside the pipe, rather than resting on the drain cover. This matters because the reaction needs to occur inside the pipe column, not at the surface. If the baking soda sits on top of the drain grate and the vinegar hits it in open air, you get theatre. You get foam on your sink basin and zero pressure buildup where the blockage actually is. The physical placement of the sodium bicarbonate inside the pipe is the single most common error in failed attempts, and it is the one that no lifestyle article ever mentions because the writers have never actually performed a controlled comparison. The third variable is the vinegar delivery. 2 full cups, approximately 480 milliliters, of standard white distilled vinegar at 5% acidity, poured in a single continuous pour, not slowly, not cautiously, but in one committed motion. Immediately after pouring, you cover the drain opening completely with a drain plug, a folded cloth, or any object capable of creating a seal. This is critical. The seal forces the CO2 pressure downward into the pipe rather than allowing it to vent upward into the room. Without the seal, you are watching a reaction. With the seal, you are directing one. You hold that cover in place for 90 seconds without lifting it. Not 80 seconds. Not close enough. 90 seconds, measured. After 90 seconds, you remove the cover and follow immediately with a second kettle of hot water poured in a slow, sustained stream over 30 seconds. This flushes the saponified residue downstream and clears the pipe wall of whatever the reaction has loosened. That is the complete protocol, and it costs 28 cents. For blockages that have been building longer than a few weeks, the kind where water drains but drains slowly, where the problem has graduated from inconvenience to persistent, the base protocol needs reinforcement, and the reinforcement requires one additional compound that costs less than $2 at any grocery store and has been sitting in the baking aisle entirely unmarketed for this purpose. Combine 1 cup of baking soda with half a cup of coarse kosher salt before introducing it to the drain. The salt serves a mechanical function that the baking soda alone cannot perform. Sodium chloride crystals at coarse grain size act as a mild abrasive against the softened organic material on the pipe wall during the CO2 pressure surge, physically scrubbing the interior surface while the chemical reaction simultaneously breaks down the lipid structure of the blockage. The combination addresses both the chemical and the physical dimension of the obstruction in a single application. Allow this mixture to sit dry in the pipe for 20 minutes before introducing the vinegar. The extended dry contact time allows the salt to begin drawing moisture out of the blockage through osmotic pressure, pre-weakening the structure before the reaction begins. The cost of this enhanced treatment is 41 cents. For bathroom drains specifically, where hair is the primary obstruction material rather than grease, add 2 tablespoons of cream of tartar, potassium bitartrate, to the baking soda and salt mixture. Cream of tartar carries a lower pH than vinegar and creates a sustained acidic environment in the pipe for several minutes following the initial reaction, which accelerates the breakdown of the protein structures in hair accumulation. This is the variant for the drain that has resisted every previous attempt. It costs 63 cents per treatment. The maintenance protocol that eliminates the need for any intervention, commercial or otherwise, is a monthly application of the base baking soda and vinegar method on every drain in the home, performed on the same day each month before any visible slowdown occurs. Organic accumulation builds gradually and consistently. Interrupting that accumulation cycle monthly means it never reaches the threshold where a blockage forms. Preventive chemistry applied at 30-day intervals costs approximately $3.40 per year across a standard 4-drain household. A year's supply of Drano for the same household, based on average consumption data, costs between $60 and $90. The infrastructure of dependency is not complicated. It is just expensive for everyone except the people who built it. What you do with this information is a decision that belongs entirely to you. But understand what sharing this video actually means. It is not engagement for an algorithm. It is the transfer of information that a $42 billion industry has spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising budget working to keep out of general circulation. Every person who watches this has one fewer reason to stand in a checkout line holding a $9 bottle of sodium hydroxide. That is not a small thing. That is the mechanism by which industries this size actually lose their grip, not through legislation, not through litigation, but through the slow, irreversible spread of information they cannot buy back. If you subscribe to this channel, you're not supporting a content creator. You're joining a record that refuses to be sealed. Every video here is a document. Every document is a decision to remember something that was designed to be forgotten. The drain was never the problem. The problem was always what you were told to believe about it. Next, the $4.3 billion sunscreen industry and the UV protection method the dermatology establishment has been calling pseudoscience since 1978, despite its own internal research saying otherwise.